During the late 80s and early 90s, there were numerous Lucchese murders carried out. In today's video, I want to discuss a specific one that stands out among the rest. Back in May 1990, Anthony Gaspipe Casso's friend, Bert Kaplan, received word from the two crooked NYPD detectives, Louis Eppolito and Stephen Caracappa, that over a dozen people were about to be arrested on May 28, 1990. The scheduled sweep was in regard to the Windows case, and it included Vic Amuso and Gaspipe Casso. We know as a result of this information, both Vic and Gas landed it and became fugitives. Prior to this, Gaspipe had purchased a multi-million-dollar waterfront home at 139 Bassett Avenue in the Mill Basin section of Brooklyn. For those of you not familiar, Mill Basin is a section of Brooklyn with many luxurious homes, most which have dock space for boats. Supposedly, the house at 139 Bassett Avenue was Gaspipe's dream home. At the time, it looked like a house out of Miami Vice. And this is what it looks like today. The house has 3 floors, totaling 7,000 square feet. When Gaspipe owned it, it had a gym, a sunroom, 2 living rooms, 2 rooftop terraces, a patio with a waterfront view, an outdoor greenhouse, and a private dock. After purchasing the house, Gaspipe had it ripped down to the studs. When Vic and Gaspipe initially went into hiding, Al Diaco became the acting boss and dealt with Gaspipe more than Vic, even though he went back with Vic to their younger days. According to Al Diaco's book Mob Boss, while in Sing Sing prison in the early 60s, Diaco recognized Amuso, who was a new inmate from Brooklyn. At the time, none of the other Italian inmates at Sing Sing knew Vic, so naturally they wouldn't speak to him. This goes on in prison all the time. If no one knows you, they'll watch the way you move, and if you act accordingly, someone will approach you. According to Diaco, he vouched for Vic and introduced him to the guys. He said Vic was so grateful and told him he'd never forget it. As I mentioned, Diaco had more dealings with Gaspipe, and during Gaspipe's time as a fugitive, Diaco handed him over $800,000, most of what Gaspipe used to finish the Mill Basin house. As for the renovations, Gaspipe used a young architect named Anthony Fava, who was associated to Pete Chiodo. Maybe not considered an associate of the family, but it's been reported Fava was a friend to Chiodo. And it was through Chiodo that Fava was able to do work on Christy Tick's club, the 19th Hole, and in Diaco's restaurant, La Donna Rosa in Manhattan. To give further clarification, not every associate you may have in life is on record with you. We all had friends or people we were friendly with, and that was the extent of it. I think most of us will agree. After Tony Ducks went to prison, the Lucchese family took a nosedive. In the same respect, after the arrest and capture of Vic Amuso in June of 1991, which, by the way, was not by chance, Gaspipe dined him out and tipped the FBI off to Vic's location. But as a result of Vic's arrest, the Lucchese family dove deeper into the bowels of destruction. With all that's been depicted of Gaspipe's personality, imagine at the time he was the guy calling the shots. And while he was a fugitive, the renovation project on his house continued. But it was his wife Lillian that would be overseeing the project and dealing directly with Fava. Not long after Amuso's arrest, Gaspipe let Diaco know he wanted Fava killed. He used the excuse that the architect knew too much about illegal dealings with the house. Sensing the excuse was somewhat questionable, he added that the architect was also close to Chiodo, because it was a month earlier that the Lucchese's marked Chiodo for death and shot him a dozen times at a Staten Island gas station. Diaco was hesitant on carrying out the hit and voiced his opinion on Fava. He was an innocent kid, an architect. He wasn't part of our life. There was no reason to kill him. The Fava issue came up again in the next panel meeting. By this time, Diaco was no longer the acting boss, but was a member of the panel put in place to run the family. One of the topics that day was that someone on the panel received word from Gaspipe and he was pressing for Fava's murder. Upon hearing this, Anthony Boat Barada and Sal Avellino claimed they knew nothing about Fava, which eliminated them from handling it. After hearing this, Frankie Lastarino volunteered to handle the hit. He mentioned he had documents which contained Fava's number and address. Nonetheless, a few days later, he met with Diaco and told him he misplaced the documents and asked him instead to handle the hit. He knew Fava did work at Diaco's restaurant, but Diaco didn't want to see the architect lose his life. During this time, another rumor about Fava was spreading. This time, Gaspipe thought the architect was having an affair with his wife in his absence. If Gaspipe's early excuses to kill the architect wasn't moving the Lucchese members quickly enough, this latest rumor sealed Fava's fate. On September 18, 1991, the infamous meeting at the Kimberly Hotel took place, and it was at that meeting that the Arco sensed the Luccheses were looking to kill him. The following day, Frankie Lastarino paged the Arco's son with a message for his father. The message was, Anthony Fava was either killed on the day of the Kimberly Hotel incident or the following day on September 19th. His body wasn't discovered until September 20th. It was found in a stolen car in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. He'd been stabbed, shot, and stripped to his boxer shorts and was wrapped in plastic, which means most likely he was killed elsewhere, wrapped in plastic, and transported in a stolen car. The true reason behind Fava's death within the Lucchese family was that he installed 2 large doors and was pushing to get paid $40,000 for his work. Let's put this into better perspective. Gaspipe is the same guy who requested the most expensive bottle of wine in a Miami restaurant, one that cost $10,000, only to pour soda into it. And he did it to drive the restaurant's wine steward crazy. So $40,000 for door installation was a drop in the bucket to Gaspipe. The Arco knew the hit was wrong. As he mentioned, the guy was an architect and not part of the mob. Understandably, in that life, you're expected to follow orders and not question what you're told to do. However, there are some things that just don't sit right within a person. This was an innocent architect who lost his life as a result of seeking payment for his services. Granted, all the murders committed were equally and morally wrong, but killing Fava was despicable. If Gaspipe felt his wife was cheating on him, the issue was with his wife, not the architect, and he should have got a good divorce lawyer. I'd like to quickly mention the super thanks icon underneath the video for anyone who wants to show support for this channel, and I thank everyone who uses it. During this era, Gaspipe was the underboss of the family, and to be more specific, the only Lucchese boss at liberty. Just the fact that he gave 3 different reasons why Fava needed to be hit tells the story in a nutshell. As an underboss, he only needs to say the hit needs to happen. End of story. During my time in the life, we were given an order to assault this guy. At the time, we had no idea who he was. I was handed 2 pieces of paper. One had his picture, and the other had 2 addresses associated to him. I was told by my captain, Big John, that the guy needed to get a hospital beating. At one point, I took a good look at the paper with the guy's picture, and I wondered what the guy could have done. All of us who were initially involved in the planning of this assault was wondering the same thing. And we also wondered where it was coming from, who ordered it. Further, we all agreed it didn't feel right. Eventually, Johnny Sideburns found out that the intended target had some kind of involvement to our underboss, who at the time was Stevie Crea. We figured it possibly had something to do with construction. We all dragged this out for another year and ultimately never carried out the assault. In 2016, the guy was eventually assaulted by Big John's brother Spanky and somebody else, if you could call it an assault. The victim would later describe the incident as so insignificant, he didn't even bother reporting it to the police. I later found out that the target's name was Eric Davidson, and it eventually came to light that he was the son-in-law of Stevie Crea and was going through a divorce with Stevie's daughter, and that there was also some $30-something thousand of borrowed money that was involved. In similar fashion, you have 2 Lucchese underbosses, one who ordered a murder and another ordered an assault. Both victims were not part of the life, but what they had in common is that they became targeted by people who let their positions in that life cloud their judgment and inflate their egos. Personally, I don't believe Fava or Davidson deserved any type of mob justice. As for Davidson, if Stevie, his father-in-law, had any issues with him, it was personal, not mob business. And if Stevie's an alleged tough guy, why not handle your personal business yourself?